I was at the very beginning of my mission to drive 1,000 miles of off-road tracks inside the UK in my 70 series Land Cruiser. The vehicle has a DIY body chop and homemade camper built to my specifications. I've put this expedition vehicle through its paces on tough, long-distance four-wheel drive expeditions around the world. But little did I know, as I prepared to tackle an expedition inside my home country for the first time, that I was about to be pitted against some of the most intense four-wheel drive I'd ever experienced. I actually feel like I've kind of f***ed up here. This trail's insane! I didn't expect it to get that mad right off the bat. There's some mad stuff on this trail. If I make it to the end of this trail without a rollover, I'm going to be really surprised, honestly. I woke up in the Land Cruiser in a wild camp spot, somewhere I pulled into last night just off the trail, on a windy hillside somewhere in South Wales. Good morning, just woken up. Actually a really stormy night. Storms rolling in over the valley all night, so I'm gonna get up and go see what the deal is outside. It was a chilly morning and I put the diesel heater on for a few minutes before getting out of bed to take the edge off. I folded up the bed and packed away my sleeping bag and pillows before getting dressed to go see what was going on outside. Check this out. I jumped out of the car into an overcast morning with not a soul around to be seen on this wild Welsh hillside. This had been an ideal little spot that I'd found just off the trail by chance last night. Pulling into a place and making camp after dark is always kind of interesting because you never really know what your surroundings are going to be like the next morning when you wake up. This was just about as good of a spot as you could hope for on a trail like this. Quiet and secluded and nestled in the lee of a hill, which you'd hope would protect camp from the worst of the weather. I walked up to the edge of the hillside where there was a small stone cairn built on what appeared to be the foundations of some ancient, long-forgotten building overlooking a town in the valley below. Without being trite, this is case in point, the Welsh valleys down there, just like surrounding moorland, relatively low hills, they're just little towns in the valleys where it's slightly more hospitable to life. This in the winter must be freezing and bleak and raining. I mean, this is midsummer right now and it's pretty cold. Well, many of my predictions of it being a beautiful day are slightly premature, but nevertheless, it's a whole lot better than it was yesterday or in the night. That was actually a really quite disturbed night's sleep. The car was rocking with the wind that was coming in. There were storms rolling in over the valley pretty much all night as far as I can remember. But nevertheless, nothing that a coffee can't sort out. I guess the first night of any trip, I never really sleep that well anyway, especially while camping. You know, there's always an element of like anxiety. You don't really know what the lay of the land is. Pulled in the dark, don't know how it's tolerated around here, what the locals are like. So yeah, now that I've seen that it's fine, I'll probably sleep better. I was going to be wild camping my way down a long distance 1,000 mile off-road trail. My days were going to be filled with mud, oil and dust, and that was only going to make my morning ablutions more important than ever. I brushed my teeth and turned over the old 6-cylinder block so I could make some hot water for a shower. I like wild dirtbag off-road expeditions, but I also really like being clean, and so I try to start my day with a shower whenever it's practical. These outdoor showers can be bracing, especially when it's chilly like this morning, but there are few better feelings than when that hot water hits you and you can wash off all the filth of the previous day. Taking a shower off the side of a car like this requires you to be pretty exposed in what are ultimately public places, which means you do kinda need to pick your spots carefully if your aim is to avoid a conviction of some kind. Believe it or not, I've showered like this in places all over the world, and it's kinda remarkable how quickly you get used to it. The way my hot water system works is that I have a heat exchanger plumbed into a coolant hose so that when the engine's running I can have hot water on demand. I'd say that this has been the most transformative mod on my cruiser build because it eliminates the need to try and find showers in fuel stations and campsites. That is fresh. After cleaning up and getting ready for the day, it was time for coffee and breakfast. I turned on the gas burner and put a kettle full of water on for the coffee. Coffee is a ritual for me every day, but never more so than when I'm camping. Coffee always tastes better when you're camping. I don't know what the science is behind this, but it is a hill I will die on. Damn, that's good coffee. Breakfast on the road for me usually consists of fried eggs on toast, and today was going to be no different. I find this breakfast to strike a good balance between quick, easy and filling. I'm always excited for the day ahead on expeditions like this and anxious to get back on the road. Compared to living in a house, I find all this simple stuff takes way longer when you're on the road, and I always try to get it done as fast as possible so I can continue with my day. I'm not going to air down my tyres. I should have done it last night, but it's just raining and grim and I couldn't be bothered, so I'm going to do that this morning, and it's going to make this day a whole lot easier, I think. So I'm aiming for about 20 on the front and 25 at the rear. I usually run them at 30 and 35 respectively, so I think dropping a third out is going to help greatly with traction. I used my hand gauge to check my tyre pressures on all four wheels, and then set about dropping the PSI to my desired levels. I went around the cruiser and did all four tyres, and as I did so, a scattering of rain came blowing in over the valley. Well, a light yet persistent rain has settled in. It's a bit of a shame because when I woke up this morning there was bright sunlight, but I mean you kind of know what you're getting in for when you're going to do a four-wheel drive trip through Wales. It's renowned for being damp, dank and usually pretty cold. I'm glad I did a walk through there because I was going to drive off with that open. The old roof vent open and then everything soaking wet inside is a classic trick of mine, so it's pretty good that I spotted that. Right, let's hit the road. Right, so I've got my map set up. I just peeled off the trail last night to find this wild camp spot. It's literally 100 meters back there. So I'm gonna double back and then get into it. This trail, last night, I was getting pretty mad as I was getting into it. I had to drop to low 4 to tackle a pretty nasty rocky obstacle, so let's see what happens here. I suspect for some reason it's going to be an interesting day with four-wheel drive. Let's do it. As the rain and fog swept in up the valley, I dropped the cruiser down into 4 low and pulled out onto the trail. I was at the very beginning of 1,000 miles of off-road driving and a weeks-long expedition. As I pulled the cruiser down onto the trail, feelings of trepidation and euphoria mixed together to feel like a drug. But in my excitement to be out here on the trail, I failed to notice just how badly washed out the tyre rut on the right hand side was, and I threw the cruiser at it with a bit too much reckless abandon. That's tipped me right over the edge. The vehicle had shuddered sickeningly to a halt. Oh, no. I hadn't accounted for the extra width that the camper gives to the cruiser, and that big metal box was caught firmly on the right hand embankment. I put it in reverse and tried easing backwards, but the vehicle was jumping up and down on its own suspension, a pretty good sign that it was stuck fast. That's actually, I'm right against the f***ing side. I stuck my head out to try to get a feeling for what was happening, and decided that if I couldn't go backwards, then maybe I could pull myself out forwards, and pull myself out using the left-hand bank if my tyres could get the traction. But my tyres were just spinning. I realised that I wasn't getting out of here with just brute force and ignorance, and consigned myself to the fact that this was going to be a recovery of some kind. Let's see what the hell's going on out here. Oh, right. I didn't expect it to get that mad right off the bat. I'm pretty much on my side. Jesus Christ. The cruiser was on its side, resting completely on the right-hand embankment. This is actually really, really bad. So much for all my thoughts of euphoria and freedom. Here I was stuck not 100 meters into the first track of the morning. Up front, the picture was a little less bleak. I realised that while the heavy camper was definitely lying on the embankment, the front wheels at least were still planted roughly on the ground, and thus likely had a bit of traction still. I'm not exactly quite sure what to do here, because the car's like... I actually feel like I've kind of fucked up here. I'm gonna have to reverse, I think. But yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this, honestly. This is actually really, really bad. See what's going on here. Full contact with that bank. Oh, the side of my car's gonna be fucked up. Oh shit! Did not expect this. Not sure what the hell I can do to get forward. Oh god, man, I'm gonna definitely lose my wing mirror there. As I was easing back, an idea occurred to me. What would happen if I released all of the air out of my left-hand airbag? Would it act to pull the camper away from the embankment just enough to get a bit of movement on the go? I was gonna find out, and I dumped all the air out. Easing back now. Oh man alive, that is insane, dude. Thing is as well, this is the trail that I've plotted, so I really do need to get through this. I'm going to try it one more time. After airing down on the left hand side but keeping the right hand side still fully inflated, I could definitely feel a bit more movement. Since the cruiser was still on an insane sideways angle, I started off cautiously and gradually gave it a bit more throttle as I gained in confidence. I could feel some traction here, and I directed the wheels up the left-hand bank in the hopes that I could pull the camper cell away from the right-hand embankment just enough to drag the Land Cruiser forwards. After a bit of back and forward and my tyres spinning in the mud, I felt the vehicle finally break free of the embankment to the right. I felt a huge wave of relief wash over me as the cruiser levelled back out, freed up to continue down the track. I pulled up ahead on the trail to take a well-earned breather and to take a look around the Land Cruiser. Just gonna take a minute there to go and inspect the damage. Yeah, my mirror's fucked, but I mean that was always kind of the case. Oh damn, he's really fucked this time. Like that is so annoying. That's gonna fucking be the bane of my life for the rest of the trip. Yeah, remarkably no damage to speak of, man. Look at my tyre there. Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, it's all crushed in there. Fucking hell, that's nuts, man. Yeah, you can see where I've actually, this has been the contact point here, all the way down here, so it's actually saved the front there, but this is all kind of dunched in here. It's not bad at all, and these are just track lines into the aluminium, which is just fine. I'm not bothered at all. Wow. Kind of got lucky there, I think. Fuck flies, mate. But that is a reminder, if nothing else, there's some mad stuff on this trail, and I really do need to watch out. There's no throwing it in with wanton abandon on this thing. Like, this is serious stuff. There's an element of, with me being in my home country, UK, I kind of feel like everything is got to be tame. You know, that's always in the back of my mind, because historically I've only really been on tame trails here in the UK, but this is Wales. It's a whole other animal entirely, so I do need to be mindful of that. The rain and fog was descending fast. Turning the cruiser on its side within the first few meters of the first track of the morning had been a bit of a wake-up call, but I was keen to see what the rest of this trail held. Alright, let's get back on the road, shall we? This trail is delivering at every step. This is awesome. I'm having such a good time. I started the cruiser up and let it continue picking its way up the trail, still kind of processing what had just happened. Hey, I tell you what, that was literally just after I turned off last night. I'm so glad that I didn't just think, oh, I'm going to carry on for another literally 5 meters, because if I had done, I would have probably I would definitely have come across that obstacle, and I probably would have tried to take it in the dark. Like, that right there is also a lesson. Don't drive at night, because you never really know what the trail's going to throw at you. The trail took a winding and undulating route, still climbing up the side of the hill, as the fog descended all around me. This section of the track was uneven with a rough shale surface, but not particularly challenging, and despite the mist and fog cover, the views from this track as I climbed in altitude were spectacular. After a while, the track degraded sharply and became steeper and more washed out as I climbed ever higher in altitude. Right, okay. Holy. This ascent was steep, washed out and treacherous, and the deep, washed out tyre ruts pitched the cruiser variously from left to right onto insane angles. The track had opened out into a high moorland four-wheel drive pass. The terrain was degrading rapidly, and before long I found myself stuck once again. The cruiser was on its side yet again, and I'd lost traction on both of my right-hand wheels. You can't just go. Check that out. I determined to jump out of the car to go see what was going on. And just pushing my way out of the cruiser at this angle was a mission in and of itself. This trail's insane. Oh my god. If I make it to the end of this trail without a rollover, I'm going to be really surprised, honestly. I was hardly a mile into the first track of the day, and this would be the second time that the cruiser had been on its side. I looked down into the town in the valley below, and the dark and brooding rain clouds descending all around me, and I knew I was strapped into this for the long haul. I had a poke around the cruiser and mulled over the best way to tackle this. Again, up front didn't look all that bad, but round the back, well, that was a whole other story. I mean, that's genuinely terrifying. The thing is, if you roll on like even a relatively low risk gradient like this, because, you know, if I roll, I'm gonna hit the opposite embankment. Like, you're f***ed on your own, really? Because I'm doing this solo, there's not really much you can do about it. You're just like, oh, I'm on my side now. Don't really want to roll, you know what I'm saying? God, just getting back into the freaking at this angle. Well, that was kind of like a reconnaissance mission. I'm going to continue to go forward. Just hope that it levels back out. This sort of four-wheel driving is made way easier by a spotter. Someone who will stand out on the trail up front and direct you as to where to put your tyres and help guide you through rough terrain. Since I was doing this solo, I was having to rely on solely myself to get through these dodgy bits, and that meant stopping the vehicle and jumping out of the car way more often than I would have liked. I edged the cruiser slowly and painstakingly through the washout, the sides scraping along the embankment. After a while, the track levelled out enough for me to relax a little bit, and I let the cruiser pick its way forward more easily. Okay, back in the straight and narrow. I picked my way further up onto the moor, but any notions I might have had about making real progress were quickly shattered when I got myself stuck in another washout on the left-hand side this time. My Land Cruiser has a limited slip rear diff, but no lockers, and the open front axle was repeatedly causing me a problem here. It meant that I was regularly losing traction, and it made me feel like this whole process would have been much more intuitive if I'd had manual lockers. I tried to get out of the car to see what was going on. I don't want to get out the goddamn door. The vehicle was pitched over at such an angle that this was going to be easier said than done this time. I actually can't. Just go through the freaking window. Just went through the freaking window. Oh my god, like this trail is insane, man. Again, the issue here was that I'd lost traction on both wheels on one side. The limited slip diff just wasn't cutting it. This wasn't a bad one, and I chucked a couple of big rocks into the washout in the hopes that they'd give me a bit of traction to work with. I contorted myself back into the Land Cruiser through the window. Back in the saddle, I gave the cruiser a bit of juice in an effort to get out of this washout. It climbed out over the big rocks pretty easily, and I was back underway in no time, pushing further onto the moor. I continued pushing up the hillside. The track was still pitching me from side to side, but as I got further onto the moor, the terrain flattened out a lot, and with a flatter gradient, the obstacles were easier to tackle. As I made progress, I gained in confidence, and the trail was teaching me a lot about how best to tackle it. After a while, however, I came to a huge washout on the right, much bigger than anything I'd tackled so far. I nosed the cruiser down into it, and it immediately pitched me over onto an almost 40-degree horizontal angle. This is vicious, man. I was really trying to get through this one without having to get out of the car, and I was going to give it a damn good go before I did. On its side again, the camper was acting as an anchor, and my lack of lockers was working against me here. I dropped the vehicle into reverse and backed up in the hopes that I could re-maneuver and use the left-hand embankment to pull the cruiser out of the washout. The camper was pushed up against the right-hand bank, and every inch of progress into this obstacle came with the sickening feeling of metal being dragged along earth. I fought on with the washout, and while the vehicle had levelled out to a 30-degree angle rather than the more terrifying 40, it seemed the deeper I got into this washout, the more stuck the vehicle became. This is over 30 degrees right now. I tried again and again to pull the vehicle out to the left, but each time, just as I thought I might be getting somewhere, the weight of the vehicle would pull it back down into the washout. Oh, fuck's sake. Holy shit, I'm so stuck. Like, I'm so stuck. I'm gonna have to get my freaking recovery tracks out. Oh my god, like, I can't actually believe how mad this is. Like, this is no exaggeration. This is some of the most intense four-wheel drive shit I've ever done. I'm doing it alone. Like, I'm 33 kilometers into this trail now. If it's all like this, I mean, it's gonna take me literally months. With the cruiser stuck on an insane angle again, I fought with the weight of the door to exit the vehicle. I got out to find that the cruiser was so far over that you could look under the vehicle by simply looking down. At about 4 feet deep, this washout was undoubtedly the worst one that I'd come to yet. At this point, all I could do is laugh at the insane situation that I got myself into. Easy access to the recovery board, at least. At this point, I was fairly certain that if that embankment hadn't have been there, I would have been dealing with a full-on rollover. I got the tools out and set myself up for what was probably going to be the most high-risk self-recovery I'd ever attempted, all alone on a windswept hillside somewhere in South Wales. It's on a 30-degree angle right now, the car. This is insane.